The United States government has a legal definition of jam. There's a federal rule about what has to be in the jar before you're allowed to call it that. Same for ice cream. Same for peanut butter. There is no federal definition of coffee. No rule about what species goes in the can. No rule that the roast on the front matches what's inside. And no law anywhere that says they have to tell you when it was roasted. Folgers, Maxwell House, Great Value. All three are on this list, and two of them are probably in your kitchen right now. My name's Dale Gaskill, 31 years in the same grocery store. Started behind the fish counter in '95, finished running the place. I stocked 11 of these 12 brands myself. I set the shelf, I signed for the trucks, and I sat across a table from the reps who told us what to say about their coffee, and what not to. Everything here comes from a court file, a federal agency, or the package itself. Where it's only an allegation, I'll say so out loud. That matters, and you'll see why. 12 brands I wouldn't put in my own cart. Stick around. At the end, I've got 5 rules that work in any store in America, and 3 things to look for that actually mean something. Because one wrong can means you're paying premium money for the cheapest thing on the commodity market. Every single morning. Number 12. Folgers. The red can. Number 1 seller in America for decades. Owned by the J.M. Smucker Company. My mother drank it every morning of her adult life. The problem isn't what's in the can, it's the number printed on it. June 2020. Soren versus the Folger Coffee Company, Southern District of Florida, Case 20, CV 8897. A can of classic roast said, and these are the exact words the court quoted, makes up to 246 fluid-ounce cups. The plaintiff said if you follow the brewing instructions on that same can, you don't get close. Black Silk promised 210. They said you got about 149. Now here's where I'd rather lose the outrage than lose your trust. On November 26th of 2025, the 8th Circuit threw out the class certification. Folgers has never been found liable. They've never paid a settlement on this. So, no, Folgers wasn't convicted of anything. What's documented is the allegation and the language on the can. If you've seen a video telling you otherwise, that video's wrong. But hold on to the cup count, because in 90 seconds I'll show you the company that did pay. 11. Maxwell House. Good to the last drop. Kraft Heinz. On American breakfast tables since before either of us was born. Same accusation as Folgers, completely different ending. Farron versus Kraft Heinz Foods Company. Case 20-CV-62-1-36. Southern District of Florida, Judge Rodolfo Ruiz. The claim? The cans couldn't make the 180 to 210 servings they advertised if you followed their own instructions. 1 tablespoon per 6 ounces. Kraft Heinz paid $16 million to settle. Final approval, July 13th of 2021. And when the judge signed that order, he ended it by writing that the deal was, his words, good to the last drop. A federal judge used their own slogan on them. I laughed out loud. But here's the part that isn't funny. Payouts were 80 cents a can without a receipt, capped at $4.80. 16 million split across everybody in America who bought that coffee for 5.5 years comes to pocket change each. That's what your can was worth to them. 10. Great Value. Walmart's store brand. A lot of folks buy store brand thinking they're being smart. Sometimes you are. This isn't one of those times. Becker versus Massimo Zanetti Beverage USA, Circuit Court of Phelps County, Missouri. Co-defendants, Mother Parker's Tea and Coffee and Riley Foods. Settlement went up to $20 million. Same accusation, inflating the cup count. Preliminary approval, July 29th of 2020. But here's what nobody tells you. Great Value, Walmart. Market Pantry, Target. Food Lion, Hannaford. Signature Select. That's Safeway and Albertsons. 5 stores, 5 labels, 5 prices. All named in the same settlement, because they all came off the same 3 roasters. The grocery store doesn't roast your coffee. It never did. It buys from a contract roaster, puts its own name on the bag, and prices it against whatever's sitting next to it. I know because I placed the orders, so when you switch from one store brand to another thinking you're getting something different, Sometimes you're getting the same coffee in a different bag. 9. Nescafe. And instant coffee generally. I'm not going to pretend there's a big lawsuit here. There was one in 2014 about caffeine in their decaf. Dismissed a month later, nobody explained why. That's a dead case, and I won't build an argument on it. What I'll tell you is something I learned from the buying side. 2 coffee species matter commercially. Arabica, what you picture, about 60 to 70% of world production. And Robusta, cheaper, harsher, higher caffeine. The U.S. International Trade Commission published a briefing in January of 2024. I'll quote it. Robusta is primarily used for the production of soluble, instant coffee and for blends. That's a federal agency telling you where the Robusta goes. Is it illegal to put Robusta in there and not say so? No, completely legal. Because, and this is the whole video in one sentence here, there is no federal standard of identity for coffee. They don't have to lie to you. They just don't have to tell you. 8. Caffè Bustelo. And honestly, every decaf on this list with it. This one I have to handle carefully because the internet has gone completely off the rails on it. August 26, 2020. An organization called the Clean Label Project sued 5 of the biggest decaf brands in D.C. Superior Court. Bustelo, Maxwell House, Pete's, Keurig Green Mountain, Amazon Fresh. The claim, their decaf contained methylene chloride, a solvent, and they didn't tell you. Now stop. Because here's where I disappoint the people who came here to be angry. A television investigation followed that case. All 5 brands were within the FDA's legal limits. The limits written down, 21 CFR 173.255, 10 parts per million. Kraft Heinz said the suit had no merit. Smucker said their products comply. As far as I can find, they were right. And in 2024, groups petitioned the FDA to ban it. The FDA has not banned it. So why is Bustelo on my list? Because when I turn this can around, it doesn't say how it was decaffeinated. There are 3 or 4 ways. One uses a solvent, one uses nothing but water. They cost different money and they taste different, and the label doesn't have to tell you which one you're holding. I'm not saying it's dangerous. I'm saying you can't find out. Those are 2 different complaints, and I'm only making the second one. 7. Starbucks. And I mean the bags in the grocery aisle, not the store. This one stings because this is the bag people buy when they've decided to stop being cheap about coffee. Costs about double the red can. I watched people do that math at my shelf 1,000 times. 2 live cases. Both allegations. Nothing proven. And I want that on the record. January 2024. The National Consumers League sued in D.C. Superior Court over the claim that their coffee is 100% ethically sourced. Starbucks tried to get it dismissed. In August of 2025, the judge refused. It's moving forward. Then, January of this year, a firm filed a class action in the Western District of Washington alleging independent testing found industrial solvents in their decaf house blend. That second one is 3 weeks old. It's an accusation on a piece of paper. Treat it that way. But my problem with this bag has nothing to do with either lawsuit. You're paying double. And for that double, this bag tells you exactly as much as the cheap one does about where the coffee came from and when it was roasted. Premium price. Commodity information. In 31 years, I never got a straight answer from a rep about why. If you're still with me, hit subscribe. Cost you nothing, and it tells me somebody's actually watching this stuff. And drop a comment with whatever's in your cupboard right now, no judgment. Mine's got 2 of these in it as we speak. Now, before the final 6, I need to clear something up. Bloque de desmentidos. 3 things people say about supermarket coffee are not true. And if I let you keep believing them, you'd have no reason to believe the 12 things I am telling you. Fiorin, coffee has a cancer warning in California. Not since 2019. California wrote a specific rule, 27 CCR 25704, that exempts coffee. Effective October 1, 2019. An appeals court upheld it in 2022, and the California Supreme Court refused to hear it in 2023. That fight is over, and coffee won. The World Health Organization's Cancer Agency reviewed over 1,000 studies and put drinking coffee in Group 3, not classifiable. What they did flag was very hot drinks, over about 150 degrees. That's the temperature, not the coffee. 2. Do the glass of water test to see if your coffee's fake. Don't bother. Snopes rated it unproven back in 2019. And here's the funny part. The viral video contradicts the Food Safety Authority it claims to be citing about whether real coffee floats or sinks. It can't keep its own story straight. 3. Your coffee's full of toxic mold. That's a marketing line. Yes, ochratoxin gets detected in a lot of coffee worldwide. But the same study that produced that number ran the exposure math and found the safety margins were fine nearly everywhere. Somebody quoting you the scary number without the margin is selling you something. I could have skipped all that and just let you be scared. I'd rather you trust the next 6. Number 6. 6. Ubon. A lot of you have never heard of it. A lot of you out west grew up on it. Markets itself on 100% Arabica and responsible sourcing, and it sits a notch above the red can on price. Ubon is Kraft Heinz, same company as Maxwell House, and Ubon was covered by that same $16 million settlement I told you about at number 11. Same case, same court, same judge. Here's why I gave it its own number instead of lumping it in. This is the brand people trade up to. You leave the blue can, you pay more, you feel better about it, and you land in the same lawsuit at the same company. That's the thing about this aisle that took me years to really see. It looks like a lot of choices. It's 4 or 5 companies wearing a dozen hats. I stocked both of these. Different shelf, different price, same truck. Item variante. Corto y seco. Rompe el patrón deliberadamente. 5. 8 o'clock coffee. This one's short. August 2016. Sorgenti versus 8 o'clock Coffee Company, Southern District of New York. The claim was that bags labeled 12 ounces held about 11. 8% of what you paid for, gone. And that's all I've got. I looked for a ruling. I looked for a settlement. I couldn't find one. No judgment, no payout, no public resolution I can point you to. So I'm not telling you they were guilty of anything. I'm telling you the suit was filed and I don't know how it ended. If somebody down in the comments knows how that case closed, tell me, and I'll correct it in the next video. I mean that. Item variante. La comparación de dos marcas de la misma fábrica. 4. And number 4 isn't a brand. It's a shelf. Market Pantry, Target, Food Lion, Hannaford, Signature Select, Safeway and Albertsons. Plus, Great Value, which we did at number 10. Everyone named in the same Missouri settlement. Turn one over and look at the bottom. Down there in type you'd need my reading glasses for. It says distributed by and a company name. Not roasted by, distributed by. That word is doing an enormous amount of work. When I ordered coffee, I wasn't calling a farm. I was calling a contract roaster and choosing a spec and a price point. They filled it. Our name went on the bag. And the bag at the chain across town came off the same line at a different spec. Sometimes higher, sometimes lower. Sometimes exactly the same. So when somebody says they can taste the difference between 2 store brands, sometimes they can. And sometimes they're tasting the price tag. I'm not telling you store brand is bad. I bought it for years, and I still do. I'm telling you the name on the front is the least informative thing on that bag. The most informative thing is on the back, and I'll show you exactly what in about 5 minutes. 3. Keurig Green Mountain. The K-Cups. This one's different from everything else on the list because this is the only one where a federal regulator wrote down a number. September 10th, 2024. The Securities and Exchange Commission fined Keurig Dr. Pepper $1.5 million. Not for the coffee. For what they told their shareholders about the pods. In their annual reports for 2019 and 2020, Keurig said their testing validated that K-Cup pods can be effectively recycled. What the SEC found is what they left out. 2 of the country's largest recycling companies had already told them they wouldn't accept the pods. Administrative Proceeding 34-100983. Look it up. Separately, they paid $10 million to consumers over that same labeling. Northern District of California, March 17, 2023. Part of the deal. They had to print on the box that the pods may not be recyclable in your area. Now, to be fair, that's a recycling case. It's not about what's inside the pod. But think about what it tells you. A company said something in a federal filing, under penalty, about a claim printed on its own package. And a federal agency said, no, you left out the part that mattered. That's what I want to know about anybody I'm buying from every morning. Not what they say, what they leave out. Ítem variante, construido sobre una retirada con historia. 2. Death Wish Coffee, the one with the skull, sells itself as the world's strongest coffee. September 18, 2017. The FDA announced Death Wish was recalling every 11-ounce can of its nitro cold brew, not for taste, not for labeling. The concern was botulinum toxin. Their packaging process could have let the bacteria form the toxin inside the can. Nobody got sick. Not one reported illness, and I'll give them credit. They pulled it themselves, and they pulled all of it. Now my honesty note, and if you don't watch anything else, watch this part. That recall was for canned cold brew, not the ground coffee in the bag. If you've got a bag of their ground in your cupboard, that recall has nothing to do with it. And anybody telling you different is stretching. So why number 2? Because world's strongest coffee isn't a regulated claim either. No test, no threshold, no agency checking, same as premium and gourmet, words that sound like a standard and aren't one. And a company that once had a process problem serious enough to pull every can in the country is a company I want more information from, not less. 1. Our Family / Massimo Zanetti. 1. Number 1 isn't the biggest brand. Most of you have never seen it. It's a regional store brand called Our Family, roasted by Massimo Zanetti Beverage USA, one of those contract roasters I told you about. March 25, 2025, FDA recall. Our Family Traverse City Cherry Decaf Light Roast, 12-ounce bags. The reason? The bags were labeled decaffeinated. The coffee inside was regular. 692 cases, 15 states. I need you to think about who buys decaf. It's not people who don't like the taste. It's people with a heart rhythm their cardiologist is watching. It's people on blood pressure medication. It's people who've been told by an actual doctor to get the caffeine out. It's people who want to sleep. Somebody in 15 states picked up a bag that said decaf and drank regular coffee because a label was wrong. Nobody got hurt that we know of. It got caught. The system worked eventually. But I ran a department for 18 years, and I'll tell you what that recall really is. That's the one moment in this whole video where the label wasn't just uninformative. It was wrong. And the only reason anybody found out is that somebody bothered to check. Everything else on this list, and the cup counts, the sourcing claims, the solvents, the store brands, all of it is legal. Every bit. That's my whole point. The system isn't broken. The system is working exactly as written. It just wasn't written for you. Which brings me to what you actually do about it. 5 rules. They work in any store in America, and they take about 10 seconds each. Rule 1. Before you read a single word on the front, do this. Squeeze the bag. Find the little round plastic button, usually up near the top seam. That's a one-way valve. It lets carbon dioxide out of fresh roasted coffee without letting oxygen back in. Press it and smell it. That's what's in there. Why does the valve matter? Fresh roasted coffee gives off gas for days. No valve means one of 2 things. Either that bag would have burst, or the coffee was already old enough to have stopped giving off gas when they sealed it. A can like this doesn't need one. Know why? Nothing left to come out. The Specialty Coffee Association pulled the research together on this. Oxygen is, their words, the primary enemy of roasted coffee. Get it down to 0.5% and you extend shelf life 20 times over. Pack with nitrogen instead of air and you go from 3 months to 6. Rule 2. There are 2 kinds of dates on coffee and only one means anything. Best Buy is a marketing decision, literally. The FDA says it in plain English. Except for infant formula, manufacturers are not required by federal law to put quality dates on packaged food. That date was picked by somebody in an office who decided how long they wanted the bag sitting on my shelf. Roast date is a fact. And here's why it's such a strong signal. A roaster who prints one is voluntarily shortening his own selling window. He's making it harder to sell you old coffee. Nobody does that unless the coffee's fresh. No roast date isn't proof of anything bad. But its absence is information too. Rule 3. Whole bean, ground at home. I know. Everybody says that. Let me give you the number so it isn't just somebody telling you to be fancy. That same research found ground coffee ages at roughly double the rate of whole bean. Lipid oxidation starts in the first 24 hours after grinding. One of the aroma compounds, methanethiol, drops to about 30% of its original level in 8 days. 8 days. That's the difference between the can and the grinder. And buy small. A week's worth, maybe 2. Coffee is not a thing you stock up on. Rule 4. Learn which words on the front are regulated and which are just words. Premium, not defined. Gourmet, not defined. Artisan, not defined. Rich, smooth, bold, nothing. 100% Arabica is a real claim about a real thing, but with no federal standard of identity, there's no rule to break. If it's false, that's a job for a court, not for an agency. Even the roast level isn't checked. Consumer Reports ran tastings and found the roast printed on the package didn't always match what their experts tasted. If it's on the front, treat it as an advertisement, because that's what it is. Rule 5. The seals guarantee less than you think, not telling you to ignore them, telling you to know what you bought. USDA Organic is a real program with real inspections, including unannounced visits. It covers production methods and inputs. It does not cover working conditions. It does not cover wages. And it doesn't say one word about quality or flavor. Fair trade is the one that surprised me. Economists at the National Bureau of Economic Research studied Costa Rican producers. Owners' incomes went up about 2.2%. And for the unskilled workers, the poorest and the biggest group, they found no evidence of a positive effect on income at all. It's not nothing. It's just not what the sticker makes you feel. Now, I'm not handing you 3 brand names and telling you those are the good ones. I don't have independent lab testing to justify pointing at one company over another. And frankly, anybody who gives you 3 brands to go buy after 20 minutes of telling you brands lie, you should wonder who paid for that. So here's what to look for instead. 3 things, all of them checkable, standing in the aisle. 1. A roast date printed on the package. Not a Best Buy. A roast date. It's the only claim on that bag that costs the seller something to make. 2. Whole bean, in a bag with a valve, in a size you'll finish in 2 weeks. You can see the valve, you can feel it. Nobody has to take anybody's word for anything. 3. A named origin, a country, a region, ideally a farm, not Colombian style, not breakfast blend, an actual place. And here's what I owe you. None of those 3 guarantees it tastes good. They don't. A traceable single origin from a small roaster can taste worse to you than the red can you grew up on. And if that's true, drink the red can. I'm serious. What those 3 things guarantee is more information and less staleness. That's a smaller promise than everybody else in this corner of the internet is making. It's the only one I can back up. 12 brands. And notice something about all of it. Almost nothing I told you today was illegal. The cup counts got settled but never proven. The solvents were inside the limits. The store brands came off shared lines. That's just how manufacturing works. And the words on the front, premium, gourmet, bold, those aren't lies. They're not anything at all. The government has a legal definition of jam. It has one for ice cream. It has one for peanut butter. It does not have one for coffee. That's not a conspiracy. Nobody's hiding it. It's a gap nobody ever got around to filling, and 40 years of marketing budgets grew into the space where a rule should be. So you do it yourself. Turn the bag over, find the valve, look for a roast date, buy what you'll finish. I stocked that shelf for 31 years and I never once put up a sign telling you any of this. Nobody asked me to, and nobody stopped me. That's on me as much as anybody. So I'm telling you now, share this with somebody who still buys the big can. Not to make them feel foolish. My mother drank that coffee every morning of her life, and she was nobody's fool. Just so they know what the label isn't saying. Tell me in the comments what's in your cupboard, and say what state you're in. It matters more than you'd think. Take care of yourself and turn the package over.